Morning, everybody. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Dorothy here from the CCMA. Delighted that once again, quite a number of you are just logging in and joining us on another beautiful morning. We did a lovely morning on Friday for our last webinar, so it's great to see the sun is out again today, which is great. As always, I'm going to leave about just 2 minutes for people to log in and just get ready. So I see we've Liam and Linda, Paula, you're very welcome, Connor, Sean. If you want to just give me a little wave or chat to let me in the chat or question box to let me know you can hear okay and see okay. Myself and Alison are joking this morning that we both were wearing print. Wasn't coordinated. It obviously was something that struck us both. Steve even knows she has to come on board the next day. We'll have to coordinate our wardrobe. So from a screen perspective, just to let you know, obviously that's me there, Niamh O'Doherty from WSI, who continue to give us great support in running these webinars, and I would highly recommend them to any company who's running webinars in the coming weeks, of which I think we will be doing a lot of them. And Alison Creed, and this is Alison's second time to host a webinar for us, and we're delighted that she's with us again this morning. We got great feedback on the first webinar that Alison hosted for us, and the recording is now available on our website. So if I could ask you, as I see you're continuing to log in, just to give me a little shout out to let me know that you can hear us okay and that the volume, etc., is good. That would be great. Just to say, I can't see the presentation.
No, I took it off so that we can say hi to everyone.
Fine. Yeah. Perfect. That's fine. Sorry, Alison. Great.
No,
and just to say, as everybody's logging in as well, that we want to make this webinar as interactive as possible today. So there's going to be a couple of polls, or certainly one poll, a couple of shout outs to ask you to share your experiences, suggestions, recommendations, advice. So please use, over to the right hand side, you'll see the question panel. Please do use that as much as you can with any questions, and I'll be supporting Alison and raising any questions as they come through as she goes through her presentation. So we're at 11:02, so I'm going to hand over to you if that's okay, Alison, if you want to put your presentation. And we'll let you start. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Hi, everybody. As Dorothy said, we're here again. Beautiful day. Well, in Dublin anyway. I'm not sure about the rest of the country. Okay, so we're basically talking about leading virtual teams, and I was just sort of said the new normal, because certainly I think we all probably know that for the next probably 3, 4 or 5 weeks, we're going to be in the situation that we're in now, and I'm sure most of you 3 weeks in now have sort of settled into the working from home. So I thought that it would now be a good opportunity to sort of talk about in more granular detail about leading your virtual team. So on an agenda, we'll talk about how to explore new ways of collaboration. We don't have physical face-to-face. We do obviously through video conferencing. So just looking at a couple of different ways to collaborate, looking at some challenges that we have and how we can do that, and also how to build social connection and have fun. This is probably the thing that we get most feedback on, is how can we ensure that people, while we're socially isolating, we're not lonely, and we continue to have that team connection, which builds collaboration. Then I'll talk about clarifying your team's purpose and how to build team productivity. Now, on the productivity side, we'll do a poll, because the membership of the CCMA is various, and we need to I need to get more granular and understand a little bit more about what your productivity challenges are. Along the way, I'll give you some tips. As Dorothy said, you can see there's a question box, and if you can put your questions or comments in the question box rather than your questions in the comment box, probably comment in the question box. So apologies for that. Okay, so let's look at exploring new ways of collaboration. So can you take a minute and can you think about what your team successes have been in the last 3 weeks? So maybe you can just put that in the question box, if you wouldn't mind. Just take a minute and do that. Thank you. Are they coming in, Dorothy?
Not so far. We might be a little bit shy this morning, so we might encourage everybody.
What really good stuff have you seen happening with your team? What's worked for you in the last 3 weeks?
Just while we're waiting, I think I've obviously been talking to a lot of companies in the last couple of weeks, and certainly what's coming across from me is that teamwork is really working well. And I see actually Sean has just put up, Sean from MBCI, survival and completing work is still in the office and interaction with each other. And Matt from Sun Life has put up, adapted well to the situation. And certainly that's the impression I'm getting, that, and I think you went through the stages in the previous webinar you did, Alison, where people have gone through the different stages, and now it's sort of settling a little bit more. They're coming in great now. Thanks, everybody. Connor has said more responsible, increased productivity, which is interesting, and I think we'll come back to this because that's the message we're getting, that remote work may be a future working model for a lot of companies, or certainly some of it. Maeve has put in daily morning and meeting team get-togethers to share the plan for the day and the output at the end of the day. And Maeve is from DPD, so I can imagine, Maeve, you are up to your eyes because I see DPD vans everywhere, which is great. Keeping everybody supported. Natalie has put up, the team have been engaging with each other well and celebrating all of the little successes we have had, which is great. And Maeve is saying yes, up to her eyes. Connor, taking breaks on time. And Grania, welcome Grania, voice in the past, Alison. Grania from Mulligan is with us. So hi, Grania.
Hi,
Grania. Myself and Alison previously worked with Grania, so that's why we're doing a big shout out. So Grania said, great engagement through Hangouts, etc. More meetings, better planning. So yeah, I think everybody's pulling together because we all have the same goal, that we want to keep operating and keep customers supported.
Beautiful. I don't even have to do this presentation. This is fantastic. But it does show you that there's lots of different ideas and lots of different ways that people are making sure that they're collaborating and connecting, and that in this time people are actually very keen to do that, and it's helping with successes. Okay, so now let's take a look at what have your challenges been, what your challenges are right now, or what they've been in the last 3 weeks. Just take a moment and put it in the question box.
And Alison, I know you might have skipped over there, but just I know you had a tip there on
yeah, I'll go back to that. Okay. Dorothy.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thanks.
We'll give everybody a couple of seconds.
Teamwork.
So we're asking everybody just to put up any particular challenges they're having. I was actually speaking to one of the member companies this morning who was saying they're a big financial services company, and they had a challenge initially around the quality of the telephone voice calls being redirected, obviously, to people in their home offices. And she mentioned a piece of technology that I hadn't heard of before called NetScaler. I think it's a Citrix application. And she said they've put that in place, and it's meant a huge improvement in the quality of the voice calls. So she was saying that was a big challenge in the beginning, but again, it really worked and helped in terms of the quality, and that people now can handle calls very effectively. So Grania has put up some of the challenges: working through systems issues, ensuring staff are not isolated, and maintaining business as usual. And Paul has put up mobilizing home working quickly and the technical skills of the team members to adjust to this. And I do think that is an issue, because maybe people are using different platforms or technologies to what has been in the office. And actually, another thing a company mentioned to me was that in their own contact center, a lot of agents, frontline staff would have had 2 screens, and obviously at home now they only have 1 screen. So it is adding to the call duration. So that companies need to be mindful of that. Staff can't access the data as quickly as they normally would if they were in the office with 2 screens.
And that's
Sorry, go on, Alison.
That's something we'll talk about when we come to productivity, because there can actually be lots of different barriers to productivity, or lots of different things that you've changed that might enhance or reduce productivity. So we can have a chat about that. So I think the interesting thing here is, I'll just go back one slide, is
Alison, just 2 last ones to give you. Team members missing the office interaction, Matt has put up on May. Some team members like the support of having team members close by physically, particularly in areas where they collaborate a lot, like marketing. Also, broadband has been a challenge, particularly with children also being off school. I think we're all living with that, unfortunately, Maeve.
Okay, so what I wanted to really show here is that one size doesn't fit all in terms of different ways, new ways to collaborate and bring your team together, because each of you will have your own successes and your own challenges, and some of you have already had successes which can help with those challenges. So what would be great is if there's anybody who wants to actually go through, because I have a little tip about a method that you can use to help you to explore your challenges It's called appreciative inquiry or strengths-based leading. It's a similar type of scenario. And basically what the idea is, you start your meetings, you start your discussions within your team around what are your strengths and successes. So starting on the front foot, and then you then use these strengths or successes to help you to face the challenges. And I'd be happy with, if anybody wants to volunteer, I'd be happy to sort of go through that with you, if anybody wants to.
So what we're looking for there is for somebody who might be, we can unmute you if you want to share your experience or how you've overcome a particular challenge. I think I know Grania has just put up that training has been a challenge, and I've heard that from a number of people, even just the platforms for delivering training.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so Grania, do you want to talk through that?
Just wait.
Hi there, how are you?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi there, how are you?
Very well.
So good to hear your voice, Alison. How are you both?
Very well.
So we have had a very challenging number of weeks. So we've managed to move all of our staff, all of our contact center staff off-site, which is a good win. But I suppose when you consider the type of business we are, the way our product set will change, the way we need to respond to market, training is ongoing. So has been very challenging. So we've had to adapt, I suppose, how we do things. So we're obviously no longer in a face-to-face environment. So we're using Hangouts, WebEx sessions, this type of environment. We're doing our testing on SurveyMonkey, that type of thing to make sure people have got I suppose got the information in the right way, and we've also had to ramp up our quality to make sure that things are being, I suppose, represented the way we need them to be. So loads of different changes. The trainers are killing me day in and day out. They don't like it. They want, but they also can't go back into the classroom. So I don't know if that covers enough.
No, that's good. So if I can just feed back to you some of the things that I've heard, okay? So your major big success was that you were able to quickly get people working and dealing with your customers from home.
Yeah.
Your team members, yeah? Is that correct? So they were able to be really flexible, and in other words, needs must. We need to continue to do business as usual and talk to our customers. So that was the focus. That was the number one focus, and you were able to achieve that. And secondary to that now, in order to support those people to be able to do their job, you've got a challenge around rolling out new training for systems, for processes, and that's rolling it out using new technology. So you have to train them on technology, and also about using new technology for your training and quality people.
Exactly, yeah.
Is that correct?
Yep.
So what I would do in this situation, and you may have already done it, what I would try and do is I would try and say, okay, based on what successes we have, what can we learn from the successes we have? And what you guys have learned from the successes you have is that in extremis you can do it. And when you have to, your whole team came together and made it happen. And they changed the nature of the work that they had to do. Your people who are answering the phone, or I'm not sure whether it's all phone or whether it's emails or web chats or whatever. So now the secondary challenge is you've now got another team, which are your training and quality teams, and they similarly have to change the way they work. And what I would say to that team is, okay, how can you mirror the strength and success that the agents have had in being able to do their work from home? How can you mirror that? That's your challenge. And they've done it, so we can do it with you. How does that sound to you as a way to discuss with your training and quality people?
No, good, and I suppose it kind of puts the challenge right back to them. So no, and I suppose in fairness, they've risen to the challenge reluctantly. Heels dragging, but they've risen to it, and ultimately they want to deliver.
Yeah, and the idea of this is not in any way to shame them or anything like that, or make judgments on them. It's more to say it can be done. It's hard. It's really hard, and it's really, really hard for people who are experts. So what you find in these scenarios is, I don't know whether some of the other people will have the same scenario, it'll be people who are seen as experts, like HR experts, or maybe training experts, or it could be legal experts, or it could be financial experts. Their idea of themselves and what they do and their skills is, it's core to all of us. And so that challenge around not just people being able to do it, but people embracing it is a challenge everybody, I'm sure, can see. But that piece, that positivity around, we've done it. We can, these guys have done it. You guys have done it in other ways. We remember when we put in that new training system that you were all involved in, or whatever their own successes have been. The piece around this is to try and link it to the challenge, and how can we use our ability to, our skills to train are not determined by just face to face. So
I think it would be useful to ask if anybody else on the webinar feels they've got the solution to the training conundrum, because I definitely think it is. And I know I mentioned last week 2 Irish companies that are very active members of the CCMA that are involved on both sides of this. One is BXP Software, who provided a training platform. I know loads of other companies do as well. And on the quality side, you've somebody like ScoreBuddy. So, but it'd be interesting just if anybody wants to share if they feel they've solved the training challenge. If you want to keep going, Alison, I'll keep an eye on it. And
so the other thing I'd say about that, Gráinne, is that another piece, and I'll come to it later on, is where those trainers are in this change cycle and what's behind this piece around, you said dragging and screaming. I've got a great image in my head. But there's a reason for that, and it maybe is about fear and about being worried that they won't be as good as they have been face to face. Okay, so now let's move on. So I'll just go back quickly. So the tip here is really to work with your teams from the position of strength, constantly asking them what are their strengths, what are their successes, both on an individual and team level, and building on top of that. Build from your strengths, use your strengths to meet your challenges. It's a much more positive way of doing things. And Dorothy, I have a couple of articles on appreciative inquiry that we could maybe put up on the CCMA website if people want to know more, or I could talk about it in another webinar. Okay, so let's look at other new ways of collaboration. A challenge that has come that I've gotten quite a lot lately is, how can we brainstorm? How can we work together? It's okay, we can all do our own individual work, but how can we actually now brainstorm in this new virtual environment? Obviously, within your VC apps, not obviously, maybe some people might know this, sometimes there's a virtual whiteboard. If there isn't a virtual whiteboard, you could just use, like I am, an Excel or a PowerPoint presentation, a blank one, and just put up, as you would in a normal brainstorming, put up people's ideas. You could have, you could use a Word document, you could use an Excel document. There's lots of different ways of doing it. There are some bespoke brainstorming tools in Microsoft Teams. And also some people have some software around Agile that allow you to do this using Post-it notes or virtual Post-it notes. What I'd say to you is just try out any different ways that you can do it. But there is one way that I've learned about recently, and I just think it might be a really interesting way to brainstorm, and that's use asynchronous brainstorming. And this is basically where the way we brainstorm now is we are used to brainstorm is we all barreled into a room and we all shout out what our ideas are, and we put everything up and we look at it and we start to look about what are the best ones and prioritize, etc. But that's a great way for extroverts to brainstorm, but it doesn't really work for people who really want to think about what their ideas, and they want them fully formed before they say them out. I know I think while I'm talking, whereas a lot of people actually think before they talk, and I think that's probably a better way. So asynchronous brainstorming is using your chat, whatever chat you use, whatever chat platform you use, open threads on things that you want to brainstorm, and just put some ideas up there and ask people to continue putting other ideas and adding to the ideas, and allow it to be asynchronous. In other words, it's not happening at the same time. You're not all in a conference. You're not all on the phone at the same time. And what that does is it allows people those people who want time to think to have time to think. Just try it and see what happens. Okay, so obviously you still have to ask for feedback, but see what happens. When you do it this way, as when you do it within a VC scenario, it's really, really important, because we're not face to face and we can't read all the cues and the body language, that we need to be really aware that we need to welcome feedback and not be too resistant. And we also have to practice patience. So my tip here is, text is great for simple communication, but it does not tell you anything about the spirit in which the feedback is given. Hop onto the phone or VC if you find yourself getting paranoid and triggered. So as a manager, if you find yourself getting paranoid about what somebody might have meant and start reading things into a 10-word sentence, suddenly it's, you find yourself thinking, oh, those guys are talking about, or whatever. You need to nip that in the bud. You need to manage your own emotions around it. Because text does not convey emotion, and it doesn't convey, and it also basically, because people might not do any of the niceties like, hi, how are you, how are your family, they just send information. Just make sure that you and all your team are aware about the challenges of using just text. Doesn't mean you don't use it, it just means you need to be aware of it. So virtual brainstorming is an idea. Any other ideas that you would have around collaboration, guys? Other ways to collaborate? Somebody talked about having huddles, daily meetings.
Yeah, Maeve talked about that, that they have a daily morning and meeting. I'm conscious of time, Alison. We've about 9 minutes left, but I know Maeve talked, and I know a lot of companies are doing like coffee breaks in the afternoon that people go on, and it's non-work related. So it's a 5 or 10 minute catch up and just having a chat and seeing how it is.
So I'll go through now some other ideas around building social connection. Now, Dorothy, you said earlier on, I talked about the change curve, and here it's just around, are you still doing your daily temperature checks with your team? This change model, it's basically around where are you and your team at the moment. Hopefully you're in acceptance and moving out. But just, don't forget that people can go down that change curve depending on what's happening to them at any one time. Also, if people start to fall sick, people could go into hopelessness quite quickly. So just be really, really aware of that. And this is how you.
Do you want to do your poll, Alison? Sorry.
We'll do that poll now. So we're going to do a poll. Perfect. Sorry for the chopping change, guys. We're going to do a poll now which talks about what your challenges are with productivity and performance. You might not have any of these challenges, but if you could put down what these challenges are, then we can talk to specific challenges when we get to that in a couple of minutes. So if you just take a minute.
Everybody just complete that, and just to pick your top challenge in terms of productivity and performance. Just leave it open for another couple of minutes, seconds.
Okay.
Great. I don't know if we have the results there, Niamh, if you want to put them up.
Okay, so volumes of work significantly changed, seems to be the big one, and teams, individuals not meeting KPIs due to technology issues.
And the changes in the challenges in the channel. I know certain
in the channel,
not offering voice at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so I'll just keep those in mind when we get there. So just go on now around building social connection. Here's some ideas. You guys have other ideas around building social connection. There's 3 main ways that you can build social connection. Around mutual interest, around sharing pieces of your life, and around social catch-ups. Lots of you are doing lots of these things. What I would say to you is ask your team for ideas and encourage everyone in the team to take an idea and run with it, and make this a discussion topic at your weekly team meeting. So that in your weekly team meeting, you're probably talking about what we need to get done this week. So it's all around goals. It may be around challenges, but also let it be around that, this social cohesion and connection is important, because as somebody said, people are missing their the interaction. So the mutual interest is around getting people together around mutual interests. And this is asking people to do it themselves within the teams. If you're in a bigger team in a call center, this can be really, really fun. But even in a small, it can be great. And then sharing builds connection. Photo sharing really, you know, is working a treat as far as I can see. And you might share photos of the best view. You might share photos of the you know, person with the pet of the week, or, you know, the child, the child of the day, or the funniest thing a kid has done, or it can be anything. The best, you know, the most amazing food, the quirkiest outfit for work, might be anything. And then social catch-ups we've already talked about, you know, lunch dates, coffee breaks. Really important that your people are taking their breaks, adhering to their breaks, and encourage those, especially who are on their own, to take breaks with other people. Okay. And then, so now I want to talk a little bit about clarifying your team's purpose. I'm aware of time. So the important piece here is that if people know why they are doing something, they are much more comfortable in going the extra mile to do it. And working for or to a purpose builds resilience. So it's important that you check with your senior management teams and be really dissect in detail, what is our purpose? What's my team's purpose right now? Work with your manager on that, communicate it to your team. And this will allow people to prioritize their efforts. This is not just important for the end user, with the end user who's on the phone or doing emails. For them, it's quite easy to find what their purpose is because they're serving clients, but it's particularly important for their support people in quality, in training, in HR. It's very important to them that they know what their purpose is. It's both to support the customers, but to support the frontline people, etc. Okay, so ask your team what the purpose means to them and how they will know they are meeting it from a behavioral, quantitative and qualitative perspective, and link it into their KPIs. So finally, building team productivity. So we said the biggest challenge was volumes. So I'm taking it that the volume change being the biggest challenge is either increases or decreases in volumes here. And here it's around what can we do differently in order for us to ensure that we meet those volumes. And that will be different depending on whether it's a massive increase or not. Dorothy's already talked about people moving channels, maybe going away from voice because people might be working different hours. But the piece here is talk to your team. What are the barriers to your team reaching your performance goals? How are you measuring productivity? So if your volumes are through the roof, we all know that people will probably take more calls, but as an example, but their average call handle time may be down, the quality may be down. So get really clear about what your KPIs are or need to be. Do they need to change? And can you meet them in other ways? Rather than, as an example, the phone calls, the quality measures, 80% of calls in 20 seconds may not be appropriate when the call center is just being hit by such a volume that everybody's waiting so long. You know, if that's the case and your KPIs for individuals are based on C-stats, you know, that you have to start working through those issues. So brainstorm solutions using that appreciative inquiry technique. Finally,
Alison, just to give you a heads up, we've about 2 minutes left.
Well, that's good because we're finished. So anybody have any questions? What I would say, go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
What
so
I
was going to add.
Oh, Dorothy, you talk.
Okay, sorry, Alison. A couple of things just in terms of what I've heard other people are doing. I know some companies, as you say, have huge increased volumes, which is a challenge, but we also know there's a lot of companies that have hugely decreased volumes. I know some are looking for staff to take holidays because they're trying to obviously retain as many staff as they have. Others are doing things like reaching out to customers and getting feedback. I know it's a difficult time, but companies are saying we should still be keeping connected with customers, getting feedback, keeping that relationship going. It's important to do, and also do employee engagement surveys as well.
Huge, yeah.
One thing to add, we're going to be running a competition ourselves, CCMA, and we'll have a fantastic Pantronics Poly headset, which are like hen's teeth at the moment.
I'd like one of those.
Open to suggestions from anybody in terms of what they think would be a good thing. We're going to look at things like, you know, a picture, your remote office, maybe a team video, something to keep it a bit of fun, and we'll run it over every couple of weeks and we'll have some nice prizes. So again, that's just to keep the community connected. Sorry, Alison.
Right.
That's
No, that's fine. And it's important to say that, you know, each company has their own particular challenges. And if you are having less volumes, it's a great time to cross train your team. It's a good time to basically, you know, people who have kids at home or whatever, to allow them to use their sick leave, their parental leave. People might actually like to take some leave without pay. Maybe not, it depends. But try and brainstorm again with your teams about how to manage it, and don't shy away from, they know that the volumes aren't coming in, so don't shy away from asking them for ideas about how we can manage this. Let's treat each other as adults. It's going to be a worry for your team if their volumes are way down, so there's no harm in actually coming together and asking them about solutions as well. That's my biggest tip, would be for you to not take everything as a manager, not take everything as if you've got to solve every problem. You have a group of people there who have already proved to you that they can pivot on a stick, and you've already built a deeper level of trust with them. So keep moving in that direction, and what you'll find is whatever happens, you'll get through it. That's it.
That's great. Thanks a million, Alison.
Thanks a million.
Really good suggestions and tips there. I just have a quick look to make sure I haven't missed any questions. No, I don't think so. Now, as before, we'll have a copy of the webinar hopefully up on the website by this afternoon, and a copy of Alison's presentation. So can I thank everybody for your participation. Do send through any ideas and suggestions on either topics for webinars going forward, or as I said, suggestions for our competitions. And I just noticed Declan from Polly is on the webinar as well. So hi Declan, and thanks so much to Polly for supporting our initiative with the competition for members. Our next webinar, because of Good Friday, a number of companies seem to be closed. We're actually going to do our webinar on Thursday. It's going to be a mindfulness event again with Maurice Whelan. So I'll have details on that up later today. We have a very specialist sponsor webinar on Wednesday afternoon with Connects One, which is on PCI DSS compliance. So again, that's up on the website. And we'll continue our series of Ask the Experts in the coming weeks. On Fridays, we have Annette Hickey of PayPal doing it in a couple of weeks' time. We also have Mark Cullen of Panel Edge, and we also will have some other sponsor webinars. So keep an eye on the website. All the recordings are there of previous webinars, and hopefully everybody stays safe and take care, and we'll hopefully see you on the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dorothy. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Alison. Thanks, Niamh.
Bye.